I'm going to show you how placing a TAD is as simple as placing a drywall screw. Now, who I learned this technique from is Chris Chang. You can see on the left, he's using an Endo Explorer to make an indent in the gums. And then the TAD is placed where that indent is. Essentially, you just turn the driver with your fingers, or if you feel a lot of resistance, then you might have to actually go ahead and use your wrist to complete the turn. Once the TAD is in place, you just disengage the driver and your TAD's in place. Now, if you were to hit a root while placing that TAD, you would just go ahead and twist the other way, back the TAD out a little bit and change your angulation, or you might have to go ahead and actually relocate the TAD to a new position. Doesn't cause any damage or harm to the roots, nothing like that. Very low likelihood doing this with a hand driver that you would fracture or break a TAD. So this is what it looks like in the anterior region. Again, maybe 15 seconds of actual TAD placement. Now in the posterior, this is going into the infrazygomatic area. So an indent is made into the gums. This is occurring, you can see that little indent there. This is right kind of at the gingival margin. And then the TAD first starts off being placed at a 90-degree angle to the teeth. So it is going in perpendicular to the long axis of the teeth until it starts to catch. And then once it starts to catch, then after about 2 millimeters of the tip of the TAD goes in place, then you change your angulation 45 degrees. And once you've changed your angulation 45 degrees, then you go ahead and continue inserting the TAD, keeping in mind that posterior TADs, you do not want to sink them all the way to the very collar of the active TAD portion. You are okay to leave some of that TAD exposed and sticking out because you do want to have a longer TAD. On the lower, you can see we made an indent. Same thing, we use that indent as our guide. We're coming in here at about a 60-degree angle into the buccal shelf. Now do keep in mind that that posterior buccal shelf on the lower, on the mandible, is going to be more dense than other areas in the mouth. So sometimes this can be tricky, and sometimes you will find that the TAD, if you don't have good pressure and don't kind of start that little pilot hole, so to speak, not pilot hole, but if the screws aren't catching and engaging right away, then you may actually dull the tip of your TAD. So you want to just make sure that when you're first committing to placing the TAD, that you want to keep good pressure down so that you don't dull the tip and have to use a different TAD. But again, in 45 seconds or less, you have the TAD placed. You'll notice right now that I'm using just finger pressure to start. So I'm just turning the driver with my fingers because there's a little spinning engagement for the fingers. And then you'll notice later, as it becomes more challenging, then I do go ahead and use more of my full wrist. Right here now you can see, just to get enough torque to get the final threads of that implant in place. And again, leaving enough of that TAD above the gingiva so that we're not going to get tissue overgrowth over top. Just like that. And that is how easy it is to place TADs.